All right, I'm gonna try to keep this quick because it's pretty late. But I'm just gonna go through my MLB season predictions here. And it's gonna be pretty crazy. I have a lot of hot takes in here, but hey, we'll see how it goes. Starting with the American League, I'm going with the Yankees in first at 105-57. They're gonna hit their home runs. Much improved pitching. I can't wait to see Cam Schlittler play a full season. I love Camilo Doval, Fernando Cruz. They're pretty stacked. It wouldn't surprise me if they end up number one. At two, I do have the Seattle Mariners at 96-66. Yeah, Cal Raleigh, that's the question. Like last year, was that an anomaly or is he that guy? He can't fall off if they want to finish second in the American League. I don't think Cal Raleigh is going to have the MVP caliber season he did last year, but I do still think he'll be the best catcher in the MLB. Starting pitching, obviously, is ridiculous. Plus Andres Munoz coming out of the pen, they're going to be a playoff team 100%. At third, I'm going to have the Tigers winning their division, also at 96-66. Framber Valdez is a massive addition. That 1-2 punch with Skubal is ridiculous. Kevin McGonigal, potential rookie of the year. We'll see how he plays. They don't really have a whole lot of holes, and it's a pretty easy division. The Royals, Twins, Sox, Guardians, they don't really move me at all. I know a lot of people are high on the Royals, but I just don't see that as much as other people. But the first team in the wild card, also at 96-66, is the Boston Red Sox. I'm really excited to watch this team this year. They got the bat speed, they got the base speed. Garrett Crochet, one of my favorite pitchers to watch. He is filthy. I think the Ranger Suarez pickup is massive for them as well. I think they're definitely going to take a leap this year and make the playoffs. With my second wild card pick, I'm going to go with the Blue Jays. I'm going to have them going 92-70. They're a very similar team to last year. I'm just really worried about how they age. Like, obviously, they lost Bichette. I think you can replace him. But it's just George Springer's getting older. Kevin Gausman, Shane Bieber, Max Scherzer, Jeff Hoffman. I just don't see how this team can be any better than they were last year. My last wild card spot will be the Baltimore Orioles at 92-70. I've been high on the Orioles the past couple of years and they've disappointed, but I promise you, I believe in this team and they will make the playoffs this year. Pete Alonso is a game changer. Taylor Ward in that ballpark with the lineup they already had, they're going to be putting up a ton of runs. They do need to stay healthy though. They can't have as much injuries as last year. The pitching is still awful. I don't know what they're thinking because they're not going to be able to win a World Series with their pitching rotation, but I do think that lineup in that ballpark can get them over 90 wins and easily secure a playoff spot. And honestly, I think it's a huge drop-off from those playoff teams to the rest of the pack in the American League. But I'll kind of go for the National League as well. But my next team out at number 7 is the Houston Astros. I have them going 79-83. Again, massive drop-off. This is kind of a retooling stage for the Astros. Hunter Brown is a monster. I think he's still underrated, even though people know he's an ace. I think he does have that Cy Young potential. But the two guys I'm really looking forward to seeing, and I know it's probably just because I'm a Cubs fan, but Hayden Wesneski and Cam Smith, I think they're going to take big jumps as well and really put people onto their game. At number 8 is the Kansas City Royals at 78-84. The three-man lineup of Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, and Jack Caglione, that's going to be ridiculous. Jack Cag, he was my number 1 prospect in that draft class, and I still think he can be, 290, 40 home runs type of guy. He won't be that this year, but I'm expecting him to take a huge leap. I love Cole Reagans, and I really love Noah Cameron. I feel like he's flown under the radar. Watch out for Noah Cameron this year. But the rest of the team is honestly mid. And that's where I think my views differ from a lot of other people, because I just don't think the supporting cast is honestly that good. At number 9, we have the Tampa Bay Rays, and I have them also going 78 and 84. They have a super fun lineup, and they always just find these guys to come out of nowhere. I love Kevin Cash and just how he operates a baseball team. The starting pitching health is worrisome. Ryan Pepiot, Shane McClanahan, all those guys. Drew Rasmussen is usually healthy, but I don't know. That does worry me because they do have a lot of starting pitching talent. Like, honestly, if their whole standard rotation stayed healthy, I think it could be a top 10 rotation in the MLB. But it just hasn't happened recently. And then even in the bullpen, Hunter Biggie and Griffin Jacks, those guys are monsters, man. I mean, they have the makings of a playoff team, but they're just not there yet. And we need to see it. But I do think that they're underrated and will surprise some people. At 10, I do have the Guardians at 77 and 85. This is just going to be another classic Jose Ramirez carry job because the Guardians front office sucks, unfortunately. They do have a bunch of young players that need to develop, but they could have done so much more this offseason to help J-Ram, get to the World Series, but it's not going to be this year. And then at 11, I have the Texas Rangers going 72 and 90. A lot of people think last year their down year was the fluke. I think their World Series run was the fluke. I don't think this team is playoff caliber. The whole team, if the whole team stayed 100% healthy throughout the whole season, sure, I'll give it to you. They'll definitely be above 500 and could challenge for that last wild card. But we all know that's not going to happen. I mean, on paper, they're phenomenal, but you have to take into account how unhealthy that lineup is. Lineup rotation, everything. You just can't trust them, and that's why I have them falling to 11 here. Then at 12, I have the Los Angeles Angels. Originally, I had them a lot lower, but I was looking into this team more, man, and I just really like the young guys that they have. Zach Neto, Noah Shanuel, Christian Moore. I think they take huge leaps and start to become kind of the true leaders of this team. Hopefully Mike Trout can stay healthy. Even if he does, I don't think he'll be the player that he once was, but that is a high-impact player. The starting pitching is terrible. You can't really do a whole lot about it, but I do think their bullpen is a little bit underrated. If you haven't watched any Ben Joyce, watch him throw. He throws heat, and he's electric. I think Ben Joyce will be an all-star this year. I also don't mind Nick Sandlin. I think he's flown under the radar. I think the Angels have more pieces than it appears, and that'll give them over the 70-win threshold. And then at 13, this is kind of where I flip-flopped the Angels with the Athletics, because the Athletics lineup, I mean, they have two of my favorite players in the MLB. They have Brent Rooker and Nick Kurtz. All right, I think I'm good. But their pitching is arguably the worst in the MLB. It's so sad. I wish the Athletics could spend more money. But yeah, if they could have even a couple decent pitchers, they'd be an above 500 team. But yeah, it's going to be some high-scoring games for the Athletics this year. So fun to watch, but I don't think that'll translate to wins. At 14, we have the Chicago White Sox. I know they're not last. At 63-99, they have a good young core going on. I'm really, really, really excited to, see how they develop. And I do think they can be a good team sooner than later. I still think they're 3 years away from, being in a true contention spot, but their farm systems look good. Their development has been solid over the past year or two. I'm looking forward to see how this team operates, and especially Murakami out of Japan. I think he's going to have a really good year. And then at last place, 15th without a question, is the Minnesota Twins. I have them 57 and 105. Byron Buxton and Rice Lewis are great, but again, it comes down to their health, and they're never healthy. Joe Ryan is a phenomenal ace. I love him. I think Taj Bradley is a bit underrated. I know he can be streaky and wishy-washy, but I do think he will turn into a really good pitcher. The rest of the team is absolute garbage. Man, yeah, it is pathetic. They need to break it up and do a full rebuild, because right now it is just not good. So that's my American League. National League, this is where it starts to get crazy, right? I have the Dodgers not only breaking the all-time record, but I have them demolishing it and being an unprecedented team. And you're probably like, well, yeah, they have the best on-roster or on-paper roster ever. I think they're winning 130 games. And that should be impossible, but they've been disappointing in the regular season compared to what we've thought, because for the past 2 years, we thought they would be breaking this record. I think it finally happens, and I think it will break baseball. And I know the likelihood of that happening is very little, but it's about time it does. And there's just no excuse for this team to not break the record and break it with ease. And I think because of how this will break baseball, that there will be a massive call to action around the league. I don't know what that looks like, but I think something's going to change. I don't know if that means salary cap, but they will find a way to prevent these kinds of teams from being assembled again, for sure. And then second in the National League, you may call me biased. I think I do a good job at not being biased towards my own teams, but I do have the Chicago Cubs here, and I do have them at an insane 114 and 48. Now, I will admit that is their absolute high end. This is not their median projection or their low projection. This is if assuming all of our pitching stays healthy. This is what's going to happen, especially if Justin Steele comes back as the ace that we know he is. Because the rest of our team, honestly, has no holes at all. No flaws. I mean, yeah, I guess you could say sometimes we lack a little bit of power, but I think this team is the best since 2016, and I am pumped to be back at Wrigley this year. Super excited about that. At number 3, I have the New York Mets at 101 and 68. This is a star-studded lineup. I mean, with Bichette, Marcus Semien, Lou Bob, in addition to Lindor and Juan Soto, it's really hard to top that. But what I'm super excited about is Carson Bench. I think he's extremely underrated. He's going to pop off this year. I could see him having a batting 270, 20 to 25 home runs, 10 to 15 stolen base, 830 OPS type of year. And he's only going to get better. So be on the lookout for Carson Bench for sure. Freddie Peralta and Nolan McLean, nasty duo. And another underrated guy I love is Jonah Tong. He has some filthy stuff. I hope he continues to show that off and gets a real chance to pitch some heavy innings. So on paper, they should absolutely win 100 games, and I do think it happens this year. My first wildcard team in the National League will be the Atlanta Braves. I have them going 94-68. They are the same great team that they have been. Obviously, last year missed the playoffs, crazy year with injuries. But we're just gonna assume Acuna's back, and the rest of the team can stay decently healthy, not even completely healthy, but just above average in terms of health. And I do think they will be back to being a playoff team. My second wild card may be a bit of a surprise, but I do have the San Diego Padres at 92-70. A huge reason for this is because they have the best bullpen in the MLB, and you cannot argue it, maybe besides the Dodgers because they're the Dodgers, but I don't even count that. Mason Miller, not only the best reliever in the league, one of the best players in the MLB. Yeah, man, it's just such a crazy bullpen that they have. And I do think Jackson Merrill will have a breakout year. Like, I could easily see him hitting 280, 35 home runs, above 850 OPS. I love Jackson Merrill. So, yeah, I think the Padres find a way to sneak back into the playoffs and surprise people yet again. Because I see a lot of people, having them as a 500 team. No, they're much better than that, trust me. At my third wild card spot, I do have the Philadelphia Phillies. I've had them bordering on this third wild card, first spot out, but I'll keep them in for sure at 87-75. I do think the past 3 years was their window to win a World Series, and they can still contend, but I don't think they'll have as good as a shot as they've had the past 3 years until they break it up and rebuild. At number 7, just missing the playoffs, I do have the Cincinnati Reds at 80-82. I'm expecting an Elly De La Cruz and Matt McClain jump. But what I'm super excited about with them is Chase Burns. He is my pick to be the breakout, most improved, next new big pitching star. I think he is very capable of being a top 10 pitcher by the end of the year. Again, I have some crazy predictions here, but Chase Burns is unbelievable. I think he'll be able to prove that this year for sure. And then at number 8, I really hate that I'm doing this. I had them in the playoffs, but I just switched it, and it's probably the wrong switch. Especially because of the record. I have them at 77-85. My gut's telling me that they'll prove me wrong yet again, because they prove everyone wrong every year and find a way to make the playoffs. But when I just look at this team, in my head tells me that their roster is just not good enough. They play an annoying blooper ball offense that has no power. It's just so hard for me to be able to trust that they will have the same level of success this year. I do really love their bullpen with Abner Uribe, Aaron Ashby, all those guys. Watching them beat the Cubs last year, as much as it hurt, I was very impressed with how they handled that, especially on the pitching side. Losing Freddie Peralta hurts a ton. I think if they still did have Freddie Peralta, I would keep them in the playoffs. Or, I don't know. I might still choose the Phillies over them if they had Freddie, but it'd be close. At number 9, I have the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I have them at 72-90. I think they're a one-year wonder. I like a couple of the pieces that they have. Obviously, Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte are superstars. And I was pretty big on Jordan Lawler as a prospect. We'll see how he plays this year. He's kind of a big question mark right now. But the rest of the team, I question their reliability. Geraldo Perdomo had a phenomenal year last year that just came out of nowhere. But is that another one-year wonder type of performance? And, the pitching, they're a really hard team to trust. So I don't expect them to make the playoffs or even sniff them. At 10, I have the San Francisco Giants. Honestly, their lineup's really solid. I don't think they're going to struggle offensively a ton, especially if Devers comes back to being the player like he was in Boston. But I don't see the pitching staff progressing, and the whole manager situation, hiring from straight from college, is pretty crazy. Um, we'll see how that goes. I just don't see them, kind of like the Diamondbacks. I just can't see them sniffing the playoffs. And then at 11, we have the Pittsburgh Pirates. I know a lot of people are super high on them. I still think they're not there yet. I have them at 66 and 96. Connor Griffin, why is he starting in AAA this year? That makes no sense. He is a bona fide superstar. He needs to be in Pittsburgh on the team starting day one. They're ridiculous for that. Their pitching staff, in 2 years, it will be the best in the MLB. I mean, Paul Skeens, Bubba Chandler, and Seth Hernandez that is so scary. But again, it just has to take time. They're not there yet. Seth Hernandez, he won't be with the team for a little bit. I think they're still 2 years. Like, White Sox are 3 years away. I think this team's 2 years away. At number 12, we have the Colorado Rockies going 58 and 104. Yeah, this team is just bad, and they have been for a decade. I think they've had worse. Will they be worse than last year? I don't know, maybe, but I think they've been worse in the past. Actually went out to Coors Field this past summer, and it was a blast. So I highly recommend going there in addition to Wrigley. Great ballpark, great food, good time. At 13, I have the Marlins going 57 and 105. Another bold prediction I have is that Owen Casey will be the best player on the Miami Marlins by the end of the year. As much as the trade for the Cubs, helped us with our pitching staff, giving up Owen Casey hurt so bad. I mean, I'm so high on Owen Casey. But we'll see. I mean, I think that's a great spot for him to just step in and become their PCA, their next guy up. Starting pitching, Sandy Alcantara, Yuri Perez. We'll see what happens. But what I do like about their pitching is Pete Fairbanks. I think he'll definitely save the team in a couple games when it gets close down the line. Big Fairbanks fan. At 14, we have the Washington Nationals at 56 and 106. James Wood, he is one of my favorite players in the MLB. I drafted him to my fantasy team this year. I also love CJ Abrams, but man, I just feel bad for him. He is surrounded by absolute hot garbage with a terrible front office, and he deserves better. Why they traded Mackenzie Gore, I have no idea, but they're stupid for that. With the haul that they got back from Juan Soto, you'd think they'd be much better by now and developing quicker, but this front office it was like after that trade, they just gave up. The pitching, they have Cade freaking Cavalli as their opening day pitcher. That's awful, man. Yeah. But what's even worse, somehow there's worse, is the St. Louis Cardinals. And I have them only winning 53 games. 53 and 109. That's where I have them. They are one of the worst teams ever. And by ever, I mean in my lifetime. JJ Weatherholt better be good, because if he's not, it's going to be a long rebuild for the Cardinals, and I am happy about it. I hope they are rebuilding for the rest of my life, because screw them. Can't stand them. This is going to be a great year for Cubs baseball. Let's move on to the awards. MVP, Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. Duh. If you're picking anyone else, I don't know why. I think you're just trying to be different. Sorry. Cy Young, I will take Garrett Crochet over Skubal, just because it's really, really hard for a pitcher to win Cy Young 3 years in a row, and Garrett Crochet is right on that same level as Skubal. So I'm just going to have him get the nod this year. In the National League, Paul Skeens. I feel like that one's pretty obvious. Other guys could get it, but come on. Skeens is the best pitcher in the National League, no doubt. So we're going to roll with him. Rookie of the Year, I do have Murakami out of the Chicago White Sox. I did watch a decent amount of what he did in Japan, and I just think he's MLB ready right now, whereas some of the other rookies that are, high up there in the betting odds to win, it'll take time for them to get into the swing of things, no pun intended, whereas Murakami's just ready to go, and I think he'll get plenty of at-bats and end up taking that award home. And then in the National League, it should be Connor Griffin, assuming the Pirates will call him up sooner rather than later, just because he's simply the best rookie-eligible guy that there is this year, no doubt. For Manager of the Year, I will go with Alex Cora of the Boston Red Sox. Whatever they're doing over there in terms of development, is they need to keep on doing it, because their young guns are looking very good, and I think getting that Red Sox team to finish at the best wildcard spot will be enough to give him the award. And then I hate this, but I feel like if the Dodgers do break the record for most wins in a season, it has to be Dave Roberts for Manager of the Year, even though anyone can manage a team like that. So I'm just going to give it to Dave Roberts. It's probably going to be wrong. Who cares? That's my pick. Now we have the playoff predictions. So if you see on my back in the standings predictions, I think my tiebreakers I set wrong. So that's why I kind of went back to my notes app for this part. But I do have the 3-seeded Tigers beating the 6-seeded Orioles. And basically that matchup, it just comes down to pitching. Orioles can't win unless they trade for pitching at the trade deadline. Simple as that. Then I have the Red Sox, 4-seeded Red Sox beating the 5-seeded Blue Jays. Last year was the shot for the Blue Jays to win. They almost won it, which would have been nuts, but I think their time has passed and the Red Sox are ready to take that next leap, and I think they will beat the Blue Jays. And then I have the 6-seeded Phillies beating the 3-seeded Mets. Again, I think the Mets are better on paper, and the Phillies have been better in last year and the year before, but I can't trust the Mets. They're choke artists, and I have to see them actually prove that they can move on in the playoffs before I pick them to, especially over a well-vetted team like the Phillies. And then I have the 5-seeded Padres over the 4-seeded Braves. Again, that bullpens matter a ton in playoff situations. I'm not betting against Mason Miller and those boys. They're just so reliable. So the Padres are so underrated. Who knows what the injuries are gonna look like for the Braves coming into the playoffs? So I'm gonna have the Padres moving on there. Then we have the division series. I'm actually gonna take the 4-seeded Red Sox over the 1-seeded Yankees, and very similar to the Mets, Yankees are choke artists. They don't show up in big games, and honestly, I don't believe in Aaron Boone. I think there's a chance that even if they do finish with the best record in the American League, if they don't win a playoff series, he could be out of a job. I think he should be, honestly, just because you have these teams that are high caliber, almost on the Dodgers level, and you only made one World Series trip. You got to be better than that. And then I have the 2-seeded Mariners over the 3-seeded Tigers. I just think the Mariners are more talented, and they will be on their revenge tour. I felt like they should have beat the Blue Jays in the ALCS last year, and I think they believe that they could have won last year. This year, they haven't gotten any worse, so why not run it back? Then on the National League side, I have the 1-seeded Dodgers over the 5-seeded Padres, the 2-seeded Cubs over 6-seeded Phillies. Again, with how high I am on the Cubs, I could see this being a sweep. Both series could be a sweep. So ALCS, 2-seeded Mariners over the 4-seeded Red Sox. This would be such a fun series. But again, the Red Sox are young, and I think they're going to be staying for a long time. This Mariners team is in their prime, and I do believe that they will make the World Series this year. And then in the NLCS, I have the Dodgers beating the Cubs. I'm sure you can guess what my World Series prediction is going to be. As much as I hate it, 1-seeded Dodgers over the 2-seeded Mariners. Who the hell is going to beat the Dodgers? So hopefully I'm wrong, and the Dodgers don't win the World Series, don't break a record, don't be as good as they are on paper, but unfortunately, it's just impossible to bet against that. So, yeah, we'll see how this ages. Love God, love others, love yourself. Peace.